when there is a Muslim state fighting a war against another Muslim state, or brutalizing another state, sometimes it's not even a war, it's just a conquest and then absolute a project of submission, of submitting the other part, then usually it's all quiet. For example, another example when it's not even Muslim on Muslim, it's just what the Chinese do to the Uyghurs, for example,
Well, exactly.
in the Xinjiang region. All the Muslim states, they have no problems with it. They do business with China. They don't even mention it. And then we also see in the discourse of some countries in the West that they're trying to racialize the conflict in Gaza, that they claim that this is an example of white supremacy, that the Jewish state is oppressing brown bodies and so on. These are things you hear on campuses in the US.
It's complete nonsense, because Gaza is run by Hamas. The biggest enemy of the Palestinian people is Hamas.
Absolutely.
But people don't want to hear this. I'm sorry. One of the most, if it would be amusing if it wasn't so sad, was one of the banners, or several of the banners in London, the march were queers for Palestine. Well, I challenge those noble people to go and stand next door to any Hamas operative with their banner "Queers for Palestine" and just see whether they actually are still alive at lunchtime.
Yes.
I suspect not.
It is certainly that the risk of death would be great if they were in Gaza trying to...
Or that Israel is somehow an apartheid state. I mean, how is that possible?
Well,
it isn't possible, because there are, the best off Palestinians, it seems to me, and probably by their own admission as well, are those who are Israeli citizens.
Absolutely.
Who have leading roles in society.
And they can also blend in very well in Israel, because this talk about this being a racialized conflict with white supremacism trying to wage war against brown bodies, if you put the average Israeli next to the average Palestinian, they are often quite impossible to tell apart.
It's not an apartheid state institutionally with South Africa.
Yes.
An apartheid state it was also, you could argue, was Second World War Germany, where if you were Jewish, you were, because of your supposed racial difference, you were subject to a different law.
In Israel,
in Israel, it's not the case.
We had cases where Arab Muslim judges of the Supreme Court were sentencing Israeli prime ministers to jail for corruption. This is naturally something that would have been impossible in Germany or in South Africa.
There have been some recent changes, but if this whole idea, as the world has advanced, and as, for example, racism is much less of an issue than it used to be, obviously. There were signs in the 50s, you could go around London or anywhere else, big cities, and you wanted to rent a flat, and it would say, no Irish, no Jews. And you don't see that sort of thing anymore, thank God. But as we have become more and more tolerant, and as folk find that their racial background is less and less of a disadvantage, if a disadvantage at all, yet the left and the trouble causers assume that we are living in the age of maximum racism.
Yes,
which is bizarre.
It's also interesting to see how the word racism has increased in media use. If you do a graph from the 80s and 90s, you can see that there was a rise in the 90s and 2000s, but there was an explosion somewhere around 2018, 19, 20. Actually 20 with the George Floyd incident and the Black Lives Matter protests, then it became global, you could say. And it's starting to take root in societies which did not really have this divide previously. For example, in large parts of Latin America, the Spanish were so few from early on, and they were so open to mixing with the local population that you had these huge mestizo populations that sprung up, and there really was no form of some form of these camps being set up that were warring against each other. And now in Brazil, for example, it's becoming an increasing problem.
Adam, as usual, the clock in the corner of the room, notwithstanding this exciting discussion, is blinking at me, so we must call a pause there, but fear not, we'll pick it up next time. Alas, Yet again, time has caught up with us, but don't worry, we'll continue the story next time on Poland Daily History when we hope you'll join us. In the meantime, thank you for watching.